Welcome into the Illini Inquirer Podcast. It's Monday. That's J Leman Day, and I don't know if we need a J more than we do in this moment right now as we react to a 63-10 loss at number 19 Indiana. They jump up to number 11. Illinois hangs on in the rankings. There was a case to leave them out, and a lot of people did, but they're hanging on at number 23, leading into a game against number 21 USC, big noon kickoff. Wish you left a little bit better showing leading into a national showcase game like this. But Jay, I thought we were kind of done reacting to games like this. This is something from the past, something we haven't seen under Brett Bielema. So how did you kind of compute this as it was playing out on Saturday night where Illinois wasn't even in the same neighborhood as the Hoosiers?
Not even in the same zip code for sure. I mean, it was on every phase a demolition. Offensively, defensively, special teams, we'll break it all down. I would say this too. I was accustomed under other coaching staffs to kind of feel like we were in the game until about 10 minutes to go in the second quarter, and it felt exactly like that. Hard to watch, difficult to see, bad fundamental football on a lot of different levels. I think that was the discouraging thing to me, and we'll talk more in depth about that. You know, I try to look for a game that reminded me of this as Illinois, and I really can't where the program's at. I mean, you could say all kinds of them. I mean, I'm a guy that got beat on national TV against Penn State in 2005. I believe 63-3, maybe 63-10. I'm not even sure. Maybe it'd be an identical score 20 years
ago. Michael Robinson was on that broadcast. That's who came to mind with me.
Right. Yeah, Michael Robinson. Yeah. So, and he was a load, let me tell you, at quarterback trying to tackle that guy. But we were in different places of program. I remember 63-0 against Iowa, different place, but I don't think you had the expectations of a football team like this in this moment in time. It reminded me some, and just throw this out here, of kind of Nebraska, Indiana last year. Nebraska had one loss. Nobody knew how good Nebraska was. Nobody really knew how good Indiana was, and Nebraska ended up getting beat 56-7 in a very similar beating that Illinois just took. And it is hats off to Indiana. I do want to say that before I get into what the job that Kirk Cignetti's done at that program, historically one of the worst programs football-wise in the Big Ten, to be undefeated at home, have two losses to the national champion team and the national runner-up, to upgrade the talent on that football team, and really, we'll talk more about it, outcoach almost every opponent he's gone against. So been impressive.
Yeah, I think they do deserve their flowers. I do weekly rankings that mean nothing in the Big Ten. I put them at 3 above Penn State just because of what we've seen so far. They've actually played somebody, and they got some athletes, man. I thought they out-athleted Illinois, and you mentioned outcoached Illinois as well. So
I think to that point, I think I was surprised by what seemed like the athletic disparity, at least as far as how the speed of the game was going. At receiver, I know we're banged up at DB. At running back, and they felt more explosive. Up front, they felt more explosive in their front seven as well. And so I think that was worrisome to me. I know we weren't 100% in some areas, and terrified by some of Coach B's comments. I love the honesty, but I was slightly terrified as well.
What upset you? Because this is what I love about Brett Bielema after losses, and he hasn't had a loss like this, but he wears his frustration. He's completely honest for the most part. Not all coaches are. He sounded like a guy pretty upset at his staff, to be honest with you, and upset with his team, obviously. But what stood out to you about that press conference where he was basically saying we didn't prepare these guys well enough?
I think the most bone-chilling comment is we didn't have answers for what they were trying to do to us. And to me, you got to kind of peel back the onion on that statement. But you have two coordinators, just so fans know how this works, right? So, like, Brett is involved in the game planning of every aspect of the game. So the buck does stop with him. But you have two coordinators, basically, that have a game plan. And these coordinators are going against the opposing defense or offensive coordinator. And you're trying to say, okay, they're attacking us this way, they're attacking us this way, let's use this play. Or they're doing this, let's stop this. But Brett said was, we don't have answers. Basically, I'll put that in layman's terms. We didn't know what to do to stop them or to gain yards throughout the entire game. And I think Brett Bielema is an elite coach. I think we have good offensive and defensive coordinators in Illinois. But for this game, it seemed like every button that was pushed by Indiana was not only the right button to push, but it was the right button to push at the right time. The
screen pass was perfectly timed.
The screen, I mean, second and long is a screen down, but to bring pressure on second and long, they have a screen pass right over. You have inside leverage man coverage. Let's hit Elijah Surratt on a deep out. Todd Blackledge, pointed out as well on a deep out for 15-yard touchdown pass, right? I believe that was after the penalty. You're gonna, play man-to-man on, Omar Cooper. Let's do a RPO and make you tackle that guy in space. And they didn't tackle him in space and run the slant route. Oh, you want to, have a safety. I'm not picking on Matt Grossetich. Matt Grossetich comes off a receiver to try to make a play on Mendoza. Undisciplined play. Mendoza pops it right over the head, right? So there's a lot of different things. You want to try to load the box on us, we'll go to our receivers. You want to try to play back, we'll run the football on you. It just seemed like, and especially it seemed like everything they wanted to do, they could do. They felt like they were more prepared. It felt like they had better adjustments in game, not that they needed to adjust much. And it felt like at every level of this football team, I often talk about a play being 11 one-on-ones, right? So meaning like your defensive end's going against your tackle. Your linebacker might be going against your fullback or tight end or running back. Your DBs might be going against a receiver. It seemed like on a given play, it wouldn't be uncommon for 5 or 6 guys to get beat, and maybe 4 or 5 of your guys win that battle. It felt like 9, 10, 11 players were defeating their Illinois opponent one-on-one at every phase. There were some moments. Dylan Rosiak didn't play all that bad, made a couple plays, right? You made a couple plays in that first quarter. But it felt like, and I'm trying not to be over alarmist here, but when you say you don't have answers, that's scary. And then the second thing, and maybe I should just let you answer another question here because I asked a question.
No, go for it.
Here. The second thing he said is, I just don't know if I'm paraphrasing here. You can go listen to the press conference. I don't know if what we're asking our guys to do is what they're best at, or or if they can do, he should say, what they're asking them to do, right? So then I peel back the onion on that. When you peel back the onion on that, it goes back to what are we coaching these guys to do, right? I mean, would that be a fair statement to say?
Yeah. It just felt like, and we got to include special teams in this too.
Yeah,
I mean, 2 huge areas. I mean, you have 10 Indiana guys on the field and they block a punt. Nobody gets a body on him. You can talk about that, Jay. But then have 12 guys on the field that have to call a timeout, give Indiana the chance to go for it on 4th down. Those are 2 at least quarter-changing plays, game-changing plays.
I think those are the 2 most important plays I saw, especially when the game was in doubt, if it ever was in doubt. Let's say in the first quarter. And I would say it was because the defense made a couple stops. We had a tough holding call. I know it was on Priestley, probably not on Priestley, but Arkin, when we were backed up. But I thought 10 guys on the field is the same as it's as bad as having the same number on the field that Duke had, right? And we capitalized, right? Because they had 2, I believe, 8s on the field. Number 2 is to have 12 guys on the field. And I knew when they called the timeout, they were going to think about it. I could just, and Signetti did a little trickeration, bringing the punt team out and then bringing that out. And when you call a timeout too, the play clock is different because it doesn't start until they wind it again. And so he was able even to get his guys out there, before the play clock even started winding, and you couldn't adjust. And then they ran for that first down. And so those 2 were the biggest plays and huge faults. So I said a holding on that, on a punt, I believe later. And so it was bad all around. The punt coverage wasn't great either. We had to give up a big return, if I believe, later on in the game, although I started to just black out, to be honest. And so it was difficult for me to talk about it. So I could keep going on to this. Let's keep talking.
Yeah. All right. So our film room, I did not watch the entire game. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I didn't think it would help a lot. But the one thing I do want to focus on in our film room is protection. This offensive line has not lived up to what we thought they could be. And it's not like this was all just hope. I thought last year, the second half of the year, the bowl game, Michigan game, this offensive line was really good. You return 5 starters. You're thinking, all right, you're going to keep building on this. The protection has been awful. Jay, push in the run game has been awful. Yeah. What has happened? And what is the fix for Barry Lonnie, Bart Miller, and crew here?
Yeah, so great questions. I don't know if I have great answers. Here's what I saw based on the tape. I thought Landino and Tyreek Tucker completely outplayed our interior offensive linemen. That's including Josh Kreutz, Geske, Brandon Henderson. I saw Kreutz and Brandon Henderson just get beat off the ball by Tucker and Landino on a couple of times. Sometimes you just got to block that. I'm talking about pass coverage. I saw Caden Fagan completely whiff on a block. Melvin Priestley had a long night. I actually don't think J.C. Davis was as bad as some of the other ones. I thought J.C. Davis actually drew a tough assignment with Kamara. I thought he was the most solid. I don't want to group him in with it because I thought he was more solid than what people made.
Josh Geske has been okay too.
Geske's been okay. I just feel like moving up, and Kreutz just has a moment where he's phenomenal at reach blocking. He's phenomenal at getting to the second level on some runs. We haven't been great in pass protection on Henderson or Melvin Priestley, and I don't know what the fix is. Okay, I think we're trying to figure that out. I will say this: we're right now with our inability to run the football, we are getting in very, very predictable down and distances, and we are getting teams teeing off on us with identical blitzes of what Duke did to us. Almost the same blitzes, maybe disguised a little bit different, but showing here, coming there, creating confusion. The communication is not great. The push on run plays is not great. To me, the timing on the run plays looks off. Sometimes maybe there may be a hole. The back can't get to the hole in time, or there's some kind of exchange issue. It just, the timing in the run game is just as important as the timing in the passing game. It's been off. And quite frankly, we look like we play higher than other teams. Our leverage is high. I look at it and I say, I feel like our pad level is not where it needs to be at a Big Ten level. We've got to play lower. We've got tall guys. I know defensive linemen are tall guys. We have to play lower. We looked high. Like whenever you see guys getting knocked off their spot and whatnot, you're playing too high. The timing has been off. And so there's a lot of different things I could say more about that, but we're not having any quick hitting run plays that actually get to the line of scrimmage fast. It seems like it's slow. It seems like the timing's off, and we're struggling putting us in predictable passing situations.
Yeah, I don't know if the move is Josh Kreutz has struggled physically against certain guys. And can you take out a two-time team captain who knows how to do all this? But when the communication seems like it's poor, when it just doesn't seem like it's working right now, I don't know if there's another center option. Do you get Desmond Schuster in there? I don't know. Is there anything Barry Lunny can do here? But I just know year 5 of a Brett Bielema program, this does not seem up to his standard, Jay.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, you think of what he's done at Wisconsin, what he's done at Arkansas, what he did really in year 2 with Chase Brown. I mean, I know Chase did a lot of that stuff, but he was able to, have the second leading rusher in the country. You have to have some kind of offensive line to do that. And what I'd be interested to see is, I think, and I'm not sure, I just don't know if we're a good enough offensive line to be a mauling offensive line. We might have to position block more than maybe we're opposed to, and I'll break this down. An example I would give is Minnesota's offensive lines for years when they had Barber and Maroney 20 years ago under Glenn Mason. They were never mauling offensive lines. They were athletic, they could move, and they would position block in that zone scheme. I'm wondering, do we
Denver
have
Broncos style back in the day?
Denver
right?
Broncos, the Mike Shanahan tree. You could go see it with Kyle Shanahan now. They do a lot of, the play action. The Houston Texans had it for a while as well with Arian Foster, and Terrell Davis. They're gonna do that, and they're gonna play action off of it. Some of that zone stuff is hard to do though out of the shotgun. This is where I think that maybe, just maybe, we need to go under center more with some of our backs that we have. I've thought that more. That allows our backs to get maybe more of a head of steam. Who cares if they know if we're running? We can always play action off of it. These are just ideas. Again, I don't know nearly as much as Barry Lunny or Bart Miller about what's going on. All I know is that what we see right now is we're not getting the production in the run game that we need. It's making it very difficult to protect Luke Altmaier long term. And when we do have these pass plays, some of them are slower developed. Some of them are, Luke Altmaier stepping into pressure. We need to have an answer to get the ball out quick. It looked like we had an answer that first 2 or 3 drives where we were dinking and dunking to Hudson Clement. We missed Beatty on a pass and whatnot, but it just seemed like it never got going in rhythm. And I'm sure because Barry wasn't able to sustain drives and Luke They probably got to a third of their plays on their play sheet. They probably had 2/3 of plays they never even got to run just because the game got away from them.
All right, Illini fans, you got some great tailgating opportunities ahead with the USC homecoming game this weekend and, of course, Ohio State in a few weeks. And you know Omaha Steaks for their world's best steak experience, some of the best, most tender steaks you'll ever have. But they also have some of your best tailgating favorites like chicken wings, smash burgers, and big deli-style franks. My family and I, we ripped into the deli-style franks over the weekend, and I got to tell you, these are some of the best all-beef hot dogs you'll have. They're like you go to a ballpark. You just grill them up on the grill. Delicious. So perfect for those tailgates. And right now, during their Red Hot Sale event, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $35 off with promo code Illini at checkout. So get fired up for fall grilling season, for tailgate season with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during the Red Hot Sale event. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code Illini at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code Illini at checkout. See site for details. I do want to ask you, getting to the defense here, especially with that secondary banged up, but what do you think Sunday was like in that Smith Center with Bielema and his staff?
It's one of two things. I've seen coaches do just put every play on film and like you watch it, and every bad one, every big play, and you get the laser pointer out and you ask a guy, is this your best? Is this your best effort? Is this what we can count on you for? And it's kind of a hold accountable. There's also the stat of like, hey, we're not going to watch that game. We're moving on. That wasn't who we are. I don't want to spend one more second. I don't know what it was, but I know there were a lot of hard conversations. When we talk about defense, really, we're talking about blocking and tackling here, offense and defense. Let's be real. It comes down to blocking and tackling. We got out fundamentaled in every way, shape, and form. I think we got out play called, everything. But really, the blocking and the tackling was an A for Indiana, which it hadn't been a great tackling team, by the way, and was an F for Illinois on blocking and tackling. The tackling reminded me of the mid-teens of the 2000s, to be honest, especially on the back end. Listen, I think Mac Rusetich and I think Taylor Heckel, is it Taylor Heckel? Tanner Heckel are going to be really good football players. I think they're good athletes. But I think you saw the lack of experience. You get excited. You start playing against high-level football players in critical times. You make mistakes. And I think you saw that. You could have really used Xavier Scott. Doesn't sound good about Xavier Scott. I hate scheduling announcements about players. I don't think that. My mind goes to the worst and pray that he's fine. We'll find out more, I'm sure, by Brett. But not having him. And then I just thought, the Miles Scott, we can go on about. Having Miles Scott back there is critical, and not having him out there was critical. I think that compounded things. So I think on the back end, it was as bad as I've seen us play on the back end, probably since the Kansas game 2 years ago, maybe even worse. I'm not saying that we were much better up front, but defensive back wise, we really looked thin and didn't look like we belonged out in that field with some of those players.
So, Matthew Bailey used that game late with a concussion. I hated it. Torrey Cox got knee in the stomach. Sounds like he should be back. We'll get more from Brett. Within the hour, we're talking to Brett. So this will come out after we post this probably. But that's scary going up against USC, Ohio State, and Washington. Washington's loaded with playmakers, Jay. So what can Aaron Henry do? What do they need to do this week, in the next couple weeks, to get a secondary that's lost Xavier Scott? We'll see what Matt Bailey's status is going into this weekend. But Caleb Patterson left that game with an injury, was on crutches in a walking boot late in the game. So we'll see. Brett said the X-rays are negative. We're getting thin. We're getting to that second string already this season, heading into a really tough stretch.
So best case scenario, let's take Xavier Scott out because he's a total question mark. But let's just take Xavier Scott out of the equation. Hopefully he's back. Let's take him out because we don't know at this point in time. We will know later. I think the best case scenario is this. Matthew Bailey is able to go through the protocol as quick as he possibly can and play on Saturday. You can do that. It takes 5 or 6 days. You can do that. He has enough experience. I think he can get the mental reps to do what he needs to do, okay? You get Miles Scott back because he was out in the first half. Tardy was in the second quarter, I believe. And so he's back. He's going to practice all week. You hope that Torrey Cox got the wind knocked out of him, was going to be out for 2 or 3 plays. And then you hope Brissett is good as well. Now, the big thing is, can Jaheim Clark get back and play this week? And even if he does play, how many reps can you count on him for? And I think that's difficult. If he could spot 20 to 25 reps for Tyler Strain or somebody else, or Tyson Rooks, who's ever at corner. And then I think, do you play Heckel at nickel? Are you going to play him at corner? You have to figure something out. I had thought that at times the Miles, Mack, and Matt Bailey package would show up. It showed up a little bit. I don't know if you can afford to take Miles Scott away from free safety at this moment, but he may be a guy that might be your best nickel. Heckel has to move out to corner. Like, you have to make these decisions. I'm not saying they're ideal. Nothing's ideal right now, right? It'd be ideal if everybody was healthy, but I'm just looking at who they have. And you have Versetich and you have Matt Bailey. If you can get Bailey back, you have Versetich at free and Bailey at strong, and then move Miles Scott in there, because that nickel position, it's so critical. There's a reason that Xavier Scott was playing nickel as your best defensive back, right? Because it's that critical. And so that's what I see as far as the defensive backs go. And we're going to need it. And I think this is a critical 2-game stretch. I think Ohio State is Ohio State. You're going to need to play an amazing game to win that game anytime. But the next 2 games are really, really critical, I believe, for this football team in determining what their goals are that they want to achieve.
This is an alarming loss. It's a kind of a core-shaking loss is what I've been calling it, at Indiana, losing like that, because it just hasn't been a Brett Bielema thing. Even if it was 35-17. Like, that would all right, that happens.
He admitted that he never had that. And it's the one thing if it was like, hey, the second half, it was 17-10 at half, and it got away from him in the second half with a couple late touchdowns, right? It wasn't that.
Right. So how do you show urgency this week as Brett Bielema, but not panic? Like, I think that's so key, because, Jay, if you do bounce back and beat USC, right, like, get back on track. This team's got a lot of goals in front of it, but this is a really tough USC team coming in. So what do you think this week's got to be like balance-wise for Brett Bielema, striking that urgency but not panicking?
Oh, man, this is where you get paid the big bucks, right? And this is why you're I think he's the 4th or 5th highest coach in paid coach in the Big Ten right now, because you've really got to figure out the mindset of your guys, and you got to lean on your seniors. I think what worried me is you obviously lost Miles Scott on defense. We've really got to have the players lead. You got to have Luke Altmaier. You got to have J.C. Davis. You got to have Kreutz. You got to have Gabe Akis, Dylan Rosiak. You really have got to have those guys rally the guys. There's a reason Rosiak and Altmaier only spoke. I think those are the only guys he probably trusted to speak in a situation like this. And so,
by the way, loved Rosiak's bleep sandwich quote.
Oh, wait, it was perfect. It was what it is, right? A little bit of levity in a serious situation. And so here's the thing. I think, and I've got confidence in Brett as a football coach. I think he's one of the best there is. And so I think he's going to get it right. But at the same time, you got to have some really tough conversations. And I believe defensively, this is my take, we've got to get out of man coverage. I don't think we have the horses right now. You can say what you want. Right now, with the health that we're at, I think you've got to mix in some zone. Listen, I will tell you, Northwestern for years under Pat Fitzgerald played a quarters coverage. They literally gave up the hitch every play for 7-8 yards, but never gave up a big play, and they just kind of made you dink and dunk, would never be in man, and they stayed in games, right? And so, like, I think right now is a time to, as a defense, you're banged up. You've got to help us stay in the game. I'm not sure you're going to be able to help us win games like we talked about. You got to keep it close, and then you got to have your offensive line, Luke Altmaier, and the run game help you actually finish out games and keep an offense like USC off of the field. I think that's the critical piece. I know that goes against the whole MO of this of the offense. And I was scared when I looked at the tape of Purdue versus Indiana last game. I know Purdue at that point had given up, but they did the exact same thing to Purdue which is a very similar defensive scheme under Ryan Walters that they did to us.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to see that. And I guarantee you, Lincoln Riley has a ton of man beaters with the athletes they have. I'm going to mispronounce. Is it Maeva? Their quarterback has looked very, very good. I know they haven't played the best competition, but Michigan State looked very, very good. And so I think we need some drastic changes to mix up some different things on the coverage. And also, we've got to take away, if we're going to play man coverage, you got to take away the first option so that we can actually get there in time, because we didn't have time to even get a rush on Mendoza because he could just go to his first option up, which was either Surratt or Omar Cooper. Man, I feel like I could go on and on. I know we have limited time, but there's so many different things I'm thinking about.
Well, let's do this. USC, really explosive offense. Their defense has gotten a little bit better, but Aiden Childs put up some points against him. Just what do you think are the keys? I mean, you mentioned the zone coverage. You mentioned, obviously got to run the ball a little bit better, but what are the keys to bouncing back for Illinois against USC?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, we can't afford to lose a game in special teams. I know that may seem very, we've kind of taken it for granted because under Disher, the special teams have been very good. And quite frankly, they weren't good against Indiana. They were pathetic and they got exposed, okay? And credit to Indiana. I just heard this stat, so this is not me. Indiana, over the last, since Signetti's been there, so about a year and a third, they are the number one rated team in the country according to PFF. Like a 99%. They're out coaching everybody they play against, basically, which is incredible. So I'll leave it there with Indiana. For USC, special teams, okay? Number two is I believe that we have got to stay on schedule offensively better. It's not just third down. First and second down, what are our plays to get us in 2nd and 5, 2nd and 3? That gives us a little bit of deception. And I think you'll get the Luke Altmaier that we're accustomed to seeing back when we have that. That's what the number one key on. Defensively, I haven't seen that amount of big plays been given up probably since Kansas 2 years ago, but it kind of felt like Virginia 2021. It kind of felt like Lovie Smith defenses. We've got to limit explosive plays. They will have their explosive plays. They will have their points. I think I talked to you earlier in the year that I think the winner of this game needs to score 40 points because Lincoln Riley is still, to this day, one of the best offensive minds in the country. People I know have given him a hard time about lack of success at USC. His offense has always been explosive. And this is a guy that took Oklahoma to 3 or 4 college football playoffs with 4 teams and was close to winning it all. So they're going to have their hands full. Those are really the keys. And I think to slow down a team like USC, you've got to get some negative plays from your defensive line. We've got to have Gabe Akis. We've got to have Joe Barna. We've got to have James Thompson Jr. We've got to have a couple guys make some plays to help our defensive backs.
I've heard a lot of people and seen a lot of people react to my recent Tushy ad read, and to that I say good, because this is a game-changing product, guys. I get it. We're talking about farts or we're talking about cleaning your butt, but this is a game changer. The bidet from Tushy is fantastic. So you can laugh about the read all you want, but what I would say is try this product out because it is the everyday luxury bidet that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and bottom health for life. 99% of people who wash with Tushy Wave feel cleaner and fresher after going to the bathroom. And Tushy Wave instantly modernizes your daily routine and bathroom with a super sleek seat plus 2 separate front and rear nozzles for that most important clean. Guys, I know nothing about plumbing. I'm not very handy. This took me 10-15 minutes to install, and it just changes your day. So every Tushy bidet easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing. It's easy to use, and guys, it will change your cleanliness. I guarantee you it. So have fun with the read if you want, but I encourage you, go check out this product. Go to hellotushy.com and use promo code Illini to get 10% off your first bidet order. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code Illini. RJ, the defensive front, I felt like it started off pretty well against Indiana. They had some run stops. They got that Leon Lowry sack, but then after the game started getting away, it felt like they got pummeled. I mean, there were a couple drives there in the fourth quarter. But yeah, that group's got to continue to play. I thought they played pretty good football so far this year, and they got to do it again against USC.
They do, and I'm just my thing is this: is who's going to come up and make a play when we really need it? A negative play when you need it. That's what your great players have to do. We've got to have somebody consistently, other than Gabe Akis, getting pressure. They're chipping Gabe. They're trying to take Gabe out of the game. We've got to have a guy consistently getting pressure, and we've got to always starts with stopping the run. I thought Rosiak played well. Wasn't that high on our other linebackers. I didn't think our other linebackers played great. I thought Rosiak played decent based on everything that was going on. But we've got to be better in the front seven, and we got to get a negative play when we need it.
Yeah. All right, Jay. Before I let you go, anything else on Illinois? I mean, it's just a big week. It's a big week for them.
Oh man, this is huge. I mean, you went from like playoff to panic in like 3 hours, right? You watch that game and you're like, wow. And I will say this. I think Indiana's a really good football team. I do think they're a top 10 football team. I really do. You played them at home at night. I certainly wasn't there. You can speak to the atmosphere. It certainly seemed like they were juiced and ready for that. You've got to think that Kirk Cignetti, Alabama fans may be salivating at the mouth that they maybe missed their guy with Cignetti because he's a Saban disciple. I know he's locked up for a decade or something in Indiana, but this guy's won everywhere he's went, which has been incredible. And he was right when they say Google him. So I could not be more impressed with Indiana. I know there's an Illinois show, so let me just move on to Illinois. And that is the confidence piece. Number one, how do you make sure that you keep, this is a confident football team going in. You felt like they had won the last, I believe, 7 games prior to this, had beaten some good football teams. And then you get derailed. And I will say, sometimes that does happen in football. I know usually not at that level, but sometimes everything just goes haywire. Everybody plays bad. It's a chain reaction. And you get in that environment. And one other thing that Brett said was, it looked like we didn't belong or weren't ready for that kind of environment. I love his honesty. Again, another terrifying statement. You're a top 10 team and you weren't ready for it. Okay. Who's supposed to get ready for it? Okay. Number 2, you didn't have answers. Okay. And then this is all what he said. So I'm just repeating what he said. That scared me, but I appreciate the honesty. Maybe he should have stayed coach so we could sleep better at night. And then number 3 is, can our guys do what we're asking them to do? The implication there is, what are we coaching them to do, and do they have the ability to do it? But then he follows up with saying, we got good players.
Yep.
So
especially when the offensive line thing came up, he said, I think we got good players up there. I was like, okay, that's a statement.
So at the end of the day, it's one game. It's one game. I mean, we all wish we could be undefeated, right? We've had much worse Septembers than this. It's one game. And they're right. Everything in front of them is still available. But they've got some urgent things, specifically on the offensive line and the defensive back depth. But I'll tell you what. Let's say you fix some stuff in the offensive line. You're able to run the ball a little bit better next week. Luke's back to himself, and there's no pressure. Not as much pressure. And then number 2 is defensive backs. You get Jaheim Clark back. Bailey passes protocol. We know Miles Scott's back. We hope Torrey's better. I didn't seem promising to have Caleb Patterson on crutches. I'm not sure Caleb's been healthy the whole year there, though. So who knows what injuries are never on the injury report. We'll know a lot more when it comes down to it. And you may have to maybe put more linebackers on the field and play zone and get out of man, because you might have a little more depth with Malachi Hood and James Cruz, although I don't think James Cruz played great. So you have to go back and forth. You have to figure something out, and it's not an easy job. But I think we got a good coaching staff. They got out coached, just like some teams get outplayed, and they admitted that. Can they bounce back? I think that's going to be a testament, and as they said, will define their season moving forward.
Yeah, some interesting games this weekend. Indiana goes to Iowa. I just don't know if Iowa can score with them. Washington hosting Ohio State is interesting to me because they got some talent. Northwestern, UCLA, who gets a win will be fun. But come on, Jay. It's Oregon, Penn State. Oregon at Penn State this weekend.
So some great games. Let me talk about that. I mean, first and foremost, I like the Washington-Ohio State game. I think this is really the first true road state test for Julian Sayin, who's looked good. He just looks so small to me. I wonder if he gets swallowed up and can actually make plays in that environment. Okay. Speaking of UCLA Northwestern, you had asked me last week, who do you have as a UCLA coach? And funny, the day after I thought about it, I think Pat Fitzgerald would be a great fit for UCLA. He's, basically he's settled. So there's no, I won't even say conviction because it's not really a crime, but they settled out of court. He's open to be coaching and someone's going to pick him up, right? I think it's a better fit right now than Va Tech. UCLA is a it's an academic institution. They got a stadium that's away from their fans, just like Northwestern has. They struggle to have, they really struggled to have a following. So I think Pat Fitzgerald's a good fit for UCLA. Couldn't necessarily say it last week. I wasn't thinking when you called me out on that, but I got it now. And I would say the Iowa-Indiana game is very interesting. It wouldn't be the first time, I will say this, that Iowa takes somebody out of their wheelhouse and slows the game down and plays defense. I think it'd be very difficult for Iowa to score over 20 points. And I think it's being very difficult for Iowa to keep them under 30 points from what I can see. So I got Indiana, but I think it will not be the boat racing that we saw from Illinois just because of the way that Iowa plays. And I do think that Penn State has what we would call the hottest coordinators in the country. You have Jim Knowles, the mad scientist, who got cherry-picked from Ohio State, along with Andy Kotelnicki, who's, probably one of the most creative play callers out there. Oregon's looked unstoppable, though, although the Oklahoma State win doesn't look as great now after Tulsa beat Oklahoma State. So it'll be an interesting game for sure.
All right, Jay, I appreciate the insight. Not a lot of fun after a loss like that, but we'll see how they bounce back. And that's why, you live to play another day and big opportunities ahead for them.
Huge. We got big noon coming. You beat a USC team that's now ranked in a name brand. USC is, a traditional power and a name brand coach. And you could literally be sitting here on this podcast a week from the day and feel much, much better and say, hey, Indiana got away from us. They have the ability to do that, but they got to get healthy on the back end, and they've got to figure out a solution on the offensive line. Hopefully that happens this Saturday.
Thanks, Jay.
Yep.